welcome to Horror Review Sunday. There's a Edgar Wright movie coming out real soon called Last Night in Soho, right? And so I figured let's go back and watch some other Edgar Wright movies. Shaun of the Dead. Hot Fuzz is one of my favorites, but Shaun of the Dead might be my favorite Edgar Wright movie, especially after rewatching it for probably like the 10th time. I've seen this movie a lot. This one, Hot Fuzz. The other movies from Edgar Wright I like, but I don't love them as much as Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. These are my two favorites from Edgar. And this movie kind of started a trend. It seemed like before this there wasn't many horror comedy zombie movies. It was mainly just Return of the Living Dead and I guess Dead Alive, which are my other two favorite zombie movies of all time. So that says something about me. I like zombie movies to be comedic. I'm not much of a serious zombie movie guy because to me the idea of zombies isn't really all that terrifying to me because they're just walking around real slow. I don't know, it just seems silly to me. So I like zombie movies to be tongue in cheek and to just have fun, not take themselves so seriously. And while this movie does have some serious moments and some heartfelt moments and sad scenes, it's a comedy. It's like a romantic comedy, but with zombies. And George Romero even has a little quote on this poster saying that he loves it too. So the Godfather, the master of zombie movies, loves this movie as well. And he even took the creators of this movie, Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, and gave them cameos in Land of the Dead. Was it Survival? Land? I think it was Land of the Dead. They have like a cameo in there. So that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, I love this movie. It's one of my favorite zombie movies. I like the more comedic ones, not the serious ones, and this one just works for me. I have like really nothing negative to say about it. So let's get into it. My positives, because I really have like no negatives. So I think the biggest thing that most people like about this movie is the main two characters. I mean, there's quite a few main characters, but the main characters are Ed and Shaun. The title is Shaun of the Dead, which rhymes with Dawn of the Dead. This is an homage to movies like Dawn of the Dead, and I love that this movie has little nods to other zombie classics. They're subtle. They're not so like forced. It's not like you're watching Halloween 2018 where there's just like 100 callbacks. It's just like here and there, just like a name drop. You're like, oh, Barbara, and the place that he works at is called like Forey Electric, a nod to Ken Forey from Dawn of the Dead. Just stuff like that. There's a restaurant called Fulci, Lucille Fulci, who did the Gates of Hell trilogy. So I like that stuff. But Ed and Shaun, the acting across the board, I think is pretty good. Some are stronger than others, but it's pretty solid acting. And just the chemistry between Ed and Shaun is great. They're in every scene in the movie. So yeah, they're the star of the show, and they shine very bright. They're just so entertaining. Their presence, the camaraderie between them, and they have a history. They've been friends since like primary school. He says, and he's like the lazy one who just won't get a job, and he's kind of holding Shaun back. I mean, these are just rich, very developed characters, very rounded by the end. They have good arcs, and these are all great characters, even the ones that you're kind of supposed to hate, like Daphs or David, whatever they call them. Just great characters all across the board. Love them all, and love all the little nods, like I said, to other zombie classics. And I like, that they're slow zombies because if they were fast zombies, it wouldn't be much of a nod to the older classics because the older ones they were slow zombies. Now in modern day, they're usually fast zombies, but I think it's more appropriate for a movie like this to have slow zombies. If they were fast and more scary, because to me like fast is scarier, it wouldn't really fit the movie. I don't think it would work as much if they were like running at them and shit. So the slow zombie approach I think works for this movie, especially since it's more of a comedy. And I really like all the sad, emotional scenes. They just really work. Like, there were some very touching scenes that really just got to me. Like one with his mom later on. Like, it's just very sad. This movie has heart. It's got soul. It's got comedy. It's got some gore. Like, I love that this movie actually has gore. It's not like a silly zombie comedy that's very like PG-13, like for kids. Like a zombie movie should always be rated R to me. It should always have people getting ripped apart. And there's one scene where we do get that. Probably again another like nod to like Dawn of the Dead, or Day of the Dead, the ones where you see people getting ripped apart. Like we got that kind of kill in here, and I'm so glad they got that. Best kill movie, and the effects, they look great, very awesome. And the fact that they pretend to be zombies is a very unique concept at the time. I don't think it's been done very much, if at all, before this. And I don't even think after this they do it very much in movies. Probably because they're scared if they do it, people will be like, you're ripping off Shaun of the Dead. So the fact that this one was probably like one of the first ones to do it, I have to give it credit for that. I did hear somebody say, I haven't seen the movie, but I did hear somebody at one point say something about some other 80s like zombie movie called Redneck Zombies that had something similar, but I haven't seen that movie. But I think this is probably the one of the first ones to do it. And I love that this movie is just so smartly written. Like there's so many like setups that have great payoffs later on, so many jokes that come back later. Like I love writing like that. It's not too slapsticky. It does get a little too silly in moments, but not that silly. It's not like pie in the face shit like that. It's not like Three Stooges or anything. It's just it could be a little too silly to some, or maybe the comedy just doesn't work for some people, and that can make or break the film. Is if the comedy is just not your style, then you won't like the movie as much. But to me, I actually was chuckling throughout at some of the jokes. I love that the ending is very just unconventional for a zombie movie. Most zombie movies, especially the serious ones, they usually always end the same way with just such a downbeat, like everyone's dead kind of ending. But in this one, I love what they do there, and it's uplifting, and I like it. And as for any nitpicks, I would have liked to see a little bit more gore here. There's just a couple moments, some CGI here that it doesn't look all that good, but it's just like one moment, and it's a cool shot. But I just wish there maybe would have been just a little bit more gore. And like I said, the comedy, it might not be for you. It might just be a little too silly in moments. But it's not meant to be taken so seriously. This movie is very much just having fun. Like, when they're just throwing vinyl records at the zombies. Like, come on, you can't take it too seriously. So, final thoughts. I just think this movie is damn near flawless with great characters, dialogue. The writing's very smart. It doesn't really slow down at all. It just gets going pretty quick, and it's just a blast. It's a fun blast with some gore, some good nods to the original classics, and I had a really good time with it. So when it comes to Shaun of the Dead, I think when it comes to the genre of zombie movies and especially zombie comedies, this is one of the best out there, and to me, it is a masterpiece. All right, time for some spoilers. So in the opening, I like that they show that everyone's kind of like acting like zombies before the infection even starts to spread. Everyone's just kind of doing the same thing, mirroring each other's actions. Like they're all picking up their phones at the same time. We're all just basically zombies, just doing the same shit every day. This movie has a commentary, just like other zombie movies from Romero, but I'm not gonna dig into that. I'm not much of a social commentary reviewer where I get real in depth or shit. I just like to have fun and point out stupid stuff like this. So this movie has some British slang or words that I've never heard before, like munted. I looked it up, and I guess it's just like saying you're drunk or just fucked up, something like that. But when I heard it, it just confused me. This guy said that he was very munted last night, and so I just wrote that down. I thought that was interesting. So got some British slang, or maybe that's not just British. I don't know. You can tell me. And then I already talked about earlier, you got Forey Electric. Is it Forey or Foray, however you pronounce Kin's last name? But I like that nod to Kin from the original Dawn of the Dead. And Fulci, the restaurant that he's trying to call up. And I like that, he gets dumped and he feels like it's the end of the world. And then it actually is kind of like the end of the world. Ed's like, it's not the end of the world. And then a zombie like attacks the pub. It's like, it actually is the end of the world. And then there's like a cool tracking shot that goes on for quite a while, following him down the street. We just see everything. There's a lot of choreography here, not a whole lot, but just zombies in the background. There's just like cars destroyed and shit just everywhere. He goes inside. He basically steals food. He doesn't have enough money, but he's like, I owe you $15 or whatever, and walks on out, and the shot just keeps going. I always like long tracking shots in movies like that. And so then the one character, Ed, he has like a bald spot on the back of his head, and I'm thinking that's just to show that he cuts his own hair. But he's such a lazy character, you know, you would think that he would want to go to the hairdresser and have them cut his hair, so he would have a good haircut, wouldn't he? Like if you're such a lazy piece of shit, like they're trying to showcase his character as, like he's so lazy, he hasn't worked for 5 years, he's just constantly playing video games, he won't tidy shit up, he won't do anything they ask him to do, but yet it looks like he cuts his own hair. I don't know. It's like a small bald spot, and I couldn't help but notice it. So it just got me thinking, like, does he cut his own hair? Is that what that's supposed to say? Or is it just the actor legit has a weird bald spot and they didn't want to address it in the film? I don't know. But they kept showing it, so it was like, he cuts his own hair? He just sucks that much? Like, how can you fuck up like that? Oh, shit, I forgot to put the thing on top. I don't know. But anyways, it's just a dumb thing to talk about. And I like the shot through the chest, the hole in her chest. Yeah, it's like CG, but it looks kind of good for the time. And they just start throwing vinyl records at the zombies. Like, really? You think that's going to destroy their brain? And they're like throwing all this soft shit, and they're throwing a laundry basket. Like, it's very silly. But I love they're like deciding which vinyl record is more important. Like the Batman soundtrack, yeah, toss that shit. Anne Murray, yeah, toss that shit. Like no, 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 let's keep that. And and then like the whole like we're coming to get you, Barbara. Call back to Night of the Living Dead. And I love the whole like plan recap. Like, all right, we're gonna go there, and we're gonna be sorry, Philip, and they keep like updating the plan. They have to keep going through it again. Just the editing of the film. This movie has the same style when it comes to like editing as Hot Fuzz. I noticed all those like quick cuts and shit. And Zombie Pete, Zombie Pete can open doors in this movie. But all the other ones, they have to break through the windows. Like, he opens 2 doors to get out of that house, and then he's in the pub later on. So, how come the other zombies can't open doors? And why can't zombies in zombie movies ever open doors? That's just weird to me. Like, they became a zombie, and it erased the knowledge and, the ability to know how to open doors. Like, they forget how to open doors and how that shit works. It doesn't make any sense to me, but like I said, it's a silly movie. You can't overthink it. But I always think that in zombie movies because they never know how to open doors. They're just too busy keeping their hands out like that. They don't know how to like operate door handles and shit. Except that one zombie in Night of the Living Dead does, right? The first one, like he's like trying to open up the door to get to Barbara. He's trying to open a door. I don't know, but in every other zombie movie, they never know how to open up doors. But Zombie Pete, it looked like he opened up 2 doors. So I just want to point that out. And Ed, he says the N word. If this movie came out today, whew, I wonder if he's been like, if this has been brought up to him since like Twitter. Like, hey, in 2004, you guys wrote this line, you said it, like, how dare you? Has he been like canceled yet by the Twitter mob? Hopefully they don't watch this movie and they're like, oh my God, Nick Frost, he said the N word. Like, this movie that line, if this movie came out today, that line would have been taken out. They would have edited that right out of it. And Zombie Philip, he turns off the radio. I thought that was funny. He's like, it's not Philip anymore, all right? And then he like turns off the radio inside the car. Like, I guess it kind of is still Philip. and then I like how Yvonne's group is identical to their group. Like, everybody is like a mirror image of them. They got like the big guy in the back. It was just kind of funny. And then the fence scene where they're hopping over the fences, they redo this scene in Hot Fuzz. And then they start pretending to be zombies. Again, I talked about it earlier. I just think that's very unique and clever, awesome. I don't understand how zombies wouldn't know the difference. Like, is it something in the blood? Like, I guess not in this case because they're fooled. It actually works. Just because they're walking slow and making moaning noises, that's all it takes, really. And I mean, how come in other zombie movies they never just eat themselves? They don't try to eat the other zombies. Is it something in the blood? They can smell zombie blood versus regular blood. I don't get it. It's just something I always question in zombie movies. Like, they should be eating each other if they're so hungry. And it seems like they can never get satisfied and fooled and full. Like, they're always hungry for another meal after they eat somebody, and they never finish the person. They just tear open their stomach and then they move on. It's like, if you're gonna kill this person, at least like eat them all the way down to the bone. And how can the zombie apocalypse even spread like this with like the National Guard or whatever they got in the UK? Like, I don't see how this thing could spread that quickly with such slow zombies like this. Like, it would never happen. With all the weapons we got in the army, the National Guard, and whatever they got in the UK, I don't know. It would never last this long. It would never get this big. It would get contained pretty quickly, I imagine. I would hope so. Because especially when you're dealing with slow zombies. But whatever. And so when they get in the bar, the jukebox starts playing Queen, and I love that. Since this is the UK and they have the Queen there, he's like, "Kill the Queen," and the guy's like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" Thinking that he's talking about the Queen, he's talking about the music. He's like, "I mean the jukebox. Kill the jukebox." That was a really good line. And they say they have 29 shells left, and by the end of it, I was counting, and it was pretty accurate. They had 29 shells left, and having to shoot your own mom, this is like the biggest devastating moment in the movie. That would just tear me up. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd just be like, "Eat me, mom. Just kill me," because I can't do it. So that was a very emotional scene. It's great. And somehow she knows that the flowers are for her. They just say there's a note on it that just says "to a wonderful mom," and they're in the trash can outside the pub. And she just looks at them like, "Yeah, these are mine. I think they're for me." How do you know that? That could be for anybody. You think you're the only mom in London? And David, he actually tries to shoot Shaun. I thought that was shocking. Like, he's so caught up in the moment, he's so filled with anger and jealousy that he actually is like willing to just shoot Shaun in that moment, but it clicks. And I think it's just to make his death maybe a little less sad. And I mean, he is like about to apologize, but then he gets cut off, mid sentence, and he gets dragged through the window and ripped apart. And you're just like, "Good riddance, asshole. Like, you were just about to shoot Shaun because he's with a girl you like? Really? Come on, man. That's pretty fucking weak." And, but yeah, him getting torn to pieces, and then she takes his severed leg and is like going after to rescue him. Like, in her mind, he's still alive, maybe out there. Even though she's holding his severed leg, she's like, "I'm coming to get you, David," beating zombies off with that leg. And so Ed gets bit by zombie Pete. How poetic. The, the guy he hates so much is the guy who ends up turning him into a zombie. And I like that, he stays back. He's like, "I've always held you back. I'm always, fucking things up for you. I'm not going to do it again. Just go." He's sacrificing himself, holding them off. I like this moment between him and Shaun, another sad moment. But then the local army, whatever they got, they show up and they start shooting everybody, and they actually get rescued. It's a happy ending. We see it's like 6 months later. There's all kinds of zombie TV shows, which is just funny as hell. And one girl's still married to her zombie husband, and they're like, "Do you sleep with that thing?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course I do." And then this whole experience has made Shaun a better person. At the beginning of the movie, he was like the worst boyfriend ever, just not really listening to her, never wanting to do different things. But now he's willing to listen to her. He's a better boyfriend because of the zombie apocalypse. But he still, probably made a compromise with her and was like, "Well, I'll do all this shit. I'll be a better boyfriend, but I still get to keep Ed in the shed." So that rhymes. But yeah, Ed's in the shed and they're playing video games at the end. So yeah, it's just a funny, uplifting ending. Ed's dead, but he still gets to hang out with him playing video games. So, just a great ending and terrific movie overall. So, what are your thoughts on this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's just an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.